the succession of a lion dynasty is inevitably accompanied by slaughter, and to prevent such a tragedy from unfolding, Manya led 8 cubs alone onto the path of exile. The difficulty of surviving this extreme danger is unimaginable. To keep the children fed, Manya had to hunt almost every single day. But misfortune always comes in waves. During a night hunt, she was accidentally and severely injured. Her abdomen was ripped open by 2 large gashes from sharp branches. This story takes place in a wildlife sanctuary in Zimbabwe. The Ndura pride has occupied the most fertile lands here for years. Whether in the dry season or the rainy season, there is always an abundant supply of water within their territory. Naturally, this area became a gathering place for all kinds of animals. Thus, the Ndura pride never worried about finding prey. This is the only adult male in the pride. Though King Burke is now 10 years old, he has maintained a firm grip over the Ndura pride. This was largely thanks to the support of the lioness Manya and her sister Manly. The sisters are the top hunters of the pride. They fought side by side, galloping across the savannah to hunt for food, while carefully guarding the cubs within the pride. Life was quiet, but full of stability. However, that peace and happiness were shattered on an ordinary day. The intruders were 2 nomadic lions, who were biological brothers. Young and vigorous, they were confident in their fighting prowess and desperate to seize a territory of their own. As the saying goes, the best way to win is through strategy. Breaking the enemy's will is paramount. The Gatto brothers began to roar continuously toward the pride. The enemy was close at hand. Despite being alone, Burke understood that as king, he had to respond. Just then, Monia, her sister, and the other lionesses roared together. Their voices were synchronized and powerful, embodying the unity of the pride. They tried to use this momentum to intimidate the Gatto brothers and force them to retreat, because they all knew once Burke was defeated and the territory lost, all cubs under 2 years old would face a fate of slaughter. This tactic seemed to work. Before long, the 2 male lions temporarily restrained their aggression. The next morning, as the pride members woke up, they were all more exhausted than usual. But for them, the difficult day had only just begun. The pride had run out of food. Monia had to organize a hunt. They could only look for prey on the outskirts of the territory, and the only potential prey nearby were the Cape buffalo, the most dangerous animals on the plains. After weighing their options, the lionesses decided to wait for dusk. Night soon fell. The lionesses targeted a massive buffalo. Without hesitation, Mon leaped onto the buffalo's back. The other lionesses followed immediately, displaying perfect coordination. But just as the hunt was about to succeed, a loud commotion unexpectedly drew the Gatto brothers. Feeling the pressure of the intruders, the other lionesses were overcome with fear and abandoned the attack. Only Manya did not back down. She bit down hard on the buffalo's back, refusing to let go. But against the overwhelming aura and power of adult males, Manya ultimately had no room to resist. She was forced to abandon the prey that was almost hers. The second they stayed, the more danger the children faced. Manya had no specific destination. She only knew that the further they were from the old pride, the safer the children would be. After Manya left, only Storms and 3 cubs remained by King Burke's side. Only then did Burke finally wake up to the reality. He couldn't run away anymore, or he would eventually be left entirely alone. So he mustered his courage and took the initiative to strike. This reminds me of another legendary lion king, Apollo. Apollo also faced an invasion by 2 male lions. To protect his family and pride, he refused to yield. He fought with every ounce of his strength until he died on the battlefield, never once retreating. Perhaps, just like humans, Every lion's sense of responsibility and courage is different. Burke's retreat saved his life, but he completely lost his pride. As the victors, the two nomadic lions naturally took over the Endura pride. The three cubs left behind did not escape their fate. They became sacrifices to the change of the dynasty beneath some rocks. Deciding to let the children rest for a moment, but she had no time to rest herself. The cubs desperately needed food to regain their strength. She had to hunt immediately. Back in the pride, she had sisters to hunt with. But now, she was alone. She had to balance the success of the hunt with the constant worry for the cubs' safety. After weighing the risks, Monya gave up on difficult, large prey and targeted a weak wildebeest calf instead. So the two males immediately stopped marking territory and began tracking Manya's scent. When the two males were within 5 kilometers of Manya, their low, menacing roars reached her ears clearly. She immediately called the cubs with a low growl and led them back into exile toward the unknown. Night fell again. Hunger haunted the cubs like a ghost. Monya had no choice but to go out and hunt alone once more. This time, she spotted a zebra. She lowered her body as usual, carefully approaching the target, and pounced at the right moment. But then, disaster struck. Her abdomen was sliced open by sharp, but her weak claws were quickly swallowed by the vast savanna. She was truly powerless. The 8 abandoned cubs were lost, not knowing where to go, moving forward only on intuition. Suddenly, they heard the sounds of hunting nearby. Their survival instincts should have kept them away, but hunger overrode their logic. They walked toward the sound without hesitation. Unexpectedly, the source of the hunting noise was Manya's sister. This group of naive cubs was incredibly lucky. They had narrowly escaped death. Nearby, Monya also smelled the rich scent of meat. She endured the agony in her abdomen, struggling to her feet once more. Every step felt as if her wounds were being torn apart. The pain was unbearable, draining her of all remaining energy. But she didn't give up. Step by step. The moment she saw her sister, the weight on her heart finally lifted. Manya knew that in the coming time, the 8 youngsters would still have much to learn, only through experience. Could they survive long in the harsh savanna and go far? She also knew that there would come a day when they must part ways, but she didn't expect it would happen so soon. One day, the 2 intruding male lions spotted them. The youngsters ran to their mother. There wasn't even time for a proper goodbye. The situation didn't allow for delay. The children had to run for their lives. Seeing the male lions closing in, to cover the children's retreat, Manya charged directly at the intruders without hesitation. Fortunately, she successfully drew their attention, stopping their furious advance. From then on, the young lions would have to rely on themselves, but Manya had already taught them how to survive. Soon, they would all lead prides of their own. Not long after Manya and her sister returned to the Endura pride, they resumed their roles as the pride's hunters, providing food and raising new cubs. This is the law of the lion, cruel and realistic. To survive, they must learn to compromise. They must accept nature's arrangements, struggling to live through shifting dynasties to continue their lineage forever. All for a single scrap of meat to survive. In the blink of an eye, the poor wolf Capsule was torn apart by the Slough Creek pack, who fell upon him like famished tigers. Capsule struggled pathetically. He howled in pain, yet before this fierce pack, his resistance seemed so small and powerless. To survive, his wife could only flee in panicked haste. She stood on the hillside, calling out to her husband in despair. But this time, the only response was an endless silence. For her husband had already been torn to shreds by the Slough Creek pack. This was the brutal reality after the Slough Creek pack seized control of the Lamar Valley. Killing Capsule was merely a means to intimidate and warn others. In the months that followed, the Slough Creek pack hunted freely in the valley. They feasted on the abundant resources here, becoming the undisputed masters of this land. Meanwhile, far on the other side of the hill, 4 wolves were quietly slipping through the forest. 2 of the females were the last remaining members of the Druid Peak pack. Little Black was among them. Though he held no power during their exile, he finally achieved his heart's desire. He had become a member of the Druid Peak pack. The 4th wolf was Little Black's brother. Perhaps together they could rebuild the Druid Peak pack and reclaim their lost territory. As if guided by fate, the Slough Creek pack's good fortune did not last long. This was the first time they had produced pups in the Lamar Valley. Yet not a single pup from the 4 litters survived. An unknown virus spread through the area, mercilessly taking those young lives. Only 3 out of 15 pups narrowly escaped death. However, misfortune was not done with the Slough Creek pack. A few months later, Lamar Valley seemed shrouded in a curse. A new disaster struck. A mysterious group of 12 wolves from afar slipped into the valley in just a few short days. They killed an alpha male from the Slough Creek pack and seized their den upon the cliffs. The Slough Creek pack guarded the western ridge of the den, but could never break through the mysterious pack's defense. 12 days later, tragedy struck again. All of the Slough Creek pack's remaining pups died in the den. Then, the mysterious pack quietly left Lamar Valley. Their departure was even more baffling than their arrival. In stark contrast to the tragic fate of Slough Creek, on the eastern side of the valley, the Druid Peak pack, led by Little Black, was growing strong. They spent their days hunting and raising the next generation. For these pups were the future backbone of the pack. Now, the Druid Peak pack had grown to 12 wolves. They had found rebirth in exile. Meanwhile, the Slough Creek pack, lacking a new generation to sustain them, began to crumble. Some members were killed. Some died of natural causes, and others chose to leave. As winter descended once more, thousands of elk flooded into Lamar Valley from the north like a tide. And returning with them were the former masters, the Druid Peak pack. With his strength and charisma, Little Black had become the new Wolf King. 3 years later, Little Black returned to his old territory with his family, full of anticipation. He longed for a final showdown with his enemies. However, the valley was deathly silent. The Slough Creek pack had lost all will to fight. They could only slip over the far ridge and leave in dejected silence. They once held this perfect valley, but due to endless misfortune, they could not keep their land. Ultimately, the Druid Peak pack reclaimed their homeland without firing a shot. They gathered together and let out a cry of victory. That sound echoed through the valley, as if announcing the dawn of a new era. In the days to come, they may still face many trials, but by then, the pups will have grown strong. Under the leadership of this great Wolf King, the Druid Peak pack will surely write a glorious new legend for Lamar Valley.